at Alabama this past week. Thought he said a lot of great things. Look, I never go by winning or losing the press conference, right? Mainly due to the fact I remember who's the guy at Philly, the Eagles.
Sirianni.
Remember how awful his opening press conference was, and everybody's like, "This guy's never going to win a game." Well, within 2 years, he had him into a Super Bowl. You can win any opening press conference you want. I thought he was sincere. I thought he talked about why he wanted to be there. I think he talked about the challenges of replacing Nick Saban. And I think it goes to show, Joe, a lot of times, too, with coaches is this. When we always say what makes coaches tick, Kalen Deboer is an alpha dude. Okay, he's an alpha male. He doesn't think the way that some people do. He thinks, you know what, shit, I can go to Alabama and win just as good as anybody else. I know that I can win, okay? I've won everywhere I've been. He even somewhat kind of, brought that up a little bit. For me, okay, I think it's going to take him some time. His number one weapon on the outside just committed to Texas and Isaiah Bond. He's got a lot of good pieces. He's got a lot of good offensive linemen that are on that team. Let's see what happens, okay, at least the next month. Players that he brings in, maybe some guys from the portal. Let's see what he does. I do think it's an interesting dynamic that I'm going to be following. He brought up Nick Saban being there and being able to lean on him about this team and about being the head coach at Alabama. Don't know how I feel about that yet. I just don't. But I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic. Let's see how he transitions here from Washington. Because, look, man, Seattle to Tuscaloosa, it is night and day different. Night and day different.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's a huge difference, and there's going to be a bit of a learning curve. My just biggest thing after having the weekend to really sit in on this and just kind of think about this is a very high floor hire. This is a hire, in my opinion, that he's going to coach really well in games and he's going to prepare his team in games. What is always going to leave so many questions for us is the recruiting aspect of things. And if he's able to recruit the current roster just to stick around and to stay and not to bail on the team heading into the 2024 season, because he's such an in-game coach. And this isn't like a guy like Marcus Freeman, who we've watched is still learning on the job, or somebody like Mario Cristobal, who's notoriously a terrible in-game decision maker. He is going to be able to win games, and even if maybe they're having a lesser year, be able to pull off wins that they're not supposed to. Maybe he can knock off an LSU or a Georgia when those opposing teams are favored, because he's just such a good offensive mind. But because it's so high floor, the ceiling might not be as exciting. And that's why I think Alabama fans need to be realistic on the expectations here. There's a possibility for the next 3 years that they're stuck at that 10-win number, that they can't really get over that 10-win number. And just because they're stuck there doesn't mean that this program's going backwards. It's going to take time for a guy like Kalen Deboer, who hasn't been a head coach for very long, to get settled in and to figure out how to run this program to get them to a national championship level. And you just got to hope that when things really start clicking, that the NFL doesn't start calling him, because that is going to happen. It always happens with any of these big coaches at these big programs that are getting their first opportunities as head coaches. Final other piece to this too, I think it's great that Ryan Grubb is coming with him. I still believe that he needs to go and bring guys that were assistant coaches in the SEC from other regions to help recruit. But Ryan Grubb is going to be huge for them recruiting the quarterback position, the receiver position, any of the offensive positions, for them to take that next step. It's very funny that this is how Ryan Grubb ended up in Tuscaloosa. It wasn't last year. It took Kalen Deboer to bring him there.
Off topic, in topic, you think Will Rogers goes there?
I don't think he should. I mean, I don't think he'll play. I really don't think that he'll play, because if Jalen Milroe's not the guy, there's plenty of other quarterbacks on there.
Julian Sayin be the guy.
He's too young. A true freshman at Alabama. When was the last time that happened?
You know who it was? They've had two, Jalen and Tua. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I think Ty Simpson has the skill set to actually play in this offense. He did not fit with what Tommy Rees needed, but he fits with what Deboer and Grubb are looking for in a quarterback. But
Right.
I really don't think that Will Rogers would start. He's like the fourth best guy in that quarterback room.
All I'm going to say is this. I saw a coach who could not adjust well enough in game against a very physical and tough defense. What do you think that you see every week here?
Good point.
Like, again, Bama fans, I am not trying to poo-poo on Kalen Deboer. Joe, think that he will get to multiple 10-win seasons there, okay? That he has that potential to do that. Again, I literally just saw a team that is built like an SEC team, built like Georgia. Michigan's more built like Georgia than anybody in the country, okay? They're two peas in a pod on how they build their team. Tough on both lines of scrimmage, okay? Dudes that can play on the outside, really good DBs. Who does that sound like? You would not know. If I told you that, you could pick two schools, that Michigan, that being Georgia. My only question is, Joe, I questioned at times, and people will remember this. I questioned how would Brian Kelly, when he went to LSU, how do you adjust playing in a conference like the SEC every week? I do think that Brian Kelly, though, did have more experience of facing the SEC. I think, what was it, Georgia, Joe, that came to South Bend, lost by a point, faced multiple times, multiple teams in the playoff. He knew what he had to do to get there. Kalen Deboer has not been in that experience. And I don't think – and again, I know that they got the A on their chest. I know that logo means a lot to a lot of people. But, Joe, they couldn't keep their top defensive assistant. Like, they're literally – their top defensive assistant got one phone call from Kirby. Oh, stay with me for just a minute.
How much? Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay. You mean to tell me that Nick couldn't tell T-Rob, hey, listen, I'm going to work out a deal for you here to be the DC or a co-DC?
I don't know. I think the timing's tough. I think that Kirby just moved really freaking quick, and
Kirby knew. You saw that video at the SEC championship game where Kirby's getting all teary-eyed. He tells Saban, thank you for everything you've done for me. That's BS. Nick knew.
Well,
all of them knew.
I'm just saying that there probably was a commotion with everything going on, and nobody was paying attention to think, hey, let's make sure that the key important current staff members don't leave, and he did.
How do you not? Joe, you got Nick Saban interviewing – hold on. You got Nick Saban interviewing assistant coaches at 3:55 per him. Okay. Per him, before he goes and tells his entire team and coaching staff that he's retiring. First off, that's bullshit. Not the interviewing people. Let me tell you what I think happened. He told him he was gone, okay, and they asked Saban to start helping him build the staff. I 1,000% agree.
Yeah, that's probably happening. Wait. We did a whole segment before the retirement, though, about who the next DC was going to be. And we did talk about T-Rob, but we mostly mentioned other people. So it didn't even seem like T-Rob was necessarily in the running to be the top DC candidate anyways.
Well,
so that's probably why he jumped. He took a much more certainty. He probably didn't want to sit around and wait for Deboer to get approval. Or give approval.
Well,
but so I want to add this to what you're saying too. Part of why I think that Alabama fans have to temper their expectations to start. Deboer comes in with a lot more question marks because of a couple areas of consistency. The way that he played the national championship game, the way that they've played in a couple of games this year, the recruiting aspect of things. When Nick came in, there were no question marks. Everybody knew that he was a great coach. The biggest question mark is if he was willing to leave the Miami Dolphins. That was the question mark. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but there were question marks when he first got there and went 7-6.
Championship winning coach, though. You kind of knew that he's, been around.
To people who don't know, T-Rob is Travarius Robinson. He was the corners or DB's coach at Bama. We'll get to him in just a minute. But look, again, just those are my final thoughts. I think it's a little unorganized, and I thought that the way that let me tell you what I thought, Joe. I thought when Saban left, things would be so organized and the bow would be so perfect when he left that because he's so detail oriented, it comes out of left field. Like, you know, I just something feels off to me about all of this. It's all I'm going to say. It's something feels off, and we'll see if Kalen Deboer can overcome the offness.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.